All right, let's just dive right in. Welcome to our explainer on finding genuine mental clarity and taking back control of your life. And we're going to do this by unpacking some serious, battle tested ancient Stoic wisdom. We'll be diving deep into Darius Farooq's brilliant collection of letters on living well.
But first, think about this. How often do you find yourself totally sucked down a Wikipedia rabbit hole? Or, how often is your entire morning completely derailed because you got triggered by some random tweet from a person you don't even know? Let's be real. The sheer chaos of modern life is incredibly relatable. From endless doom scrolling to getting furiously, heart-poundingly angry at a broken washing machine at midnight, we are constantly leaking our mental energy. Now, since Stoicism is a highly methodical philosophy, our explainer today is going to follow a very deliberate roadmap. First, we'll look at the modern distracted mind. Then we'll focus on what you actually control, managing your emotions, guarding your thoughts, and finally, knowing your true self. So let's jump right into part 1, the modern distracted mind and how we can create order from chaos. We really need to establish right up front that our modern society revolves almost entirely around pleasure, consumption, and escapism. We are literally hardwired right now to seek comfort. But here's the catch. When you're primarily driven by pleasure, you risk ending up on this endless hedonic treadmill, and it ultimately leaves us feeling anxious, unworthy, and just totally overwhelmed. To combat this, Darius Farooq introduces this great concept, tending to the garden of your mind. It basically means all improvement starts from within. We simply cannot be happy and comfortable out there in the external world if we don't first establish that exact same peace inside our own heads. By applying Stoic strategies to this inner garden, you build mental toughness. And that toughness, that's what actually grants you real tranquility. And notice how this shifts the way we look at the future. We've got this massive modern habit of hoping for specific outcomes, right? Like, I hope the economy recovers, or I hope I get that promotion. But Seneca warned us centuries ago that fear always keeps pace with hope. Hoping ties our happiness directly to things we absolutely do not control, which just creates fear and suspense. So contrast that with the practice of wondering. Instead of saying, I hope I get a new job, what if you say, I wonder what my new job will be? It instantly promotes acceptance, it breeds curiosity, it adapts us to the present moment, instead of making us anxious about a future we can't predict anyway. Which brings us to section 2, focus on what you control, the path to detachment. This is absolutely the first major pillar of Stoic philosophy. We have to aggressively separate the very few things we actually control from the endless list of things we don't. Epictetus put this perfectly with some incredibly blunt wisdom. He said, if you want to make progress, stop feeling anxious about things. I mean, hit the nail on the head, right? The reality is, our unfulfilled expectations are the root cause of our anxiety. We expect reality to perfectly match our desires, and when it inevitably doesn't, we panic. But the secret is, reality doesn't actually have to match our expectations for us to feel less anxious. To put that into perspective, think about a hot air balloon shedding weights just to stay afloat. This is a perfect metaphor for the practice of detachment. Think about investing. Say you buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, and literally the next day it drops by 10%. Okay, you lost $100. Now, you can agonize over it, or you could detach. You could tell yourself, look, I took a risk, and I'm happy to part ways with that $100 just to preserve my peace of mind. You're essentially paying a fee to keep your balloon flying. Because at the end of the day, nothing, absolutely nothing, is worth giving up your peace of mind for. Moving on to section 3, managing your emotions and understanding the true cost of anger. So how do we handle those deeply frustrating everyday situations? Say it's 10 p.m., your washing machine breaks, and your favorite sweater is sitting there dripping wet. Instead of just walking away, you aggressively wring it out by hand and stubbornly try to take the whole machine apart until midnight. Your brain is essentially on fire. But here is the crucial point. Exactly what Seneca noted 2,000 years ago. Anger is frequently way more hurtful to us than the actual injury that provokes it. When you get furious at a washing machine or beat yourself up with self-criticism, your body is just dumping cortisol. This biologically brilliant hormone meant to save us from saber-toothed tigers is now actively destroying our sleep and wrecking our metabolism. All because a home appliance broke. You have to extinguish that fire. Be your own comedian. Laugh it off. Because the event itself is totally trivial compared to the physical damage your anger is actually causing you. And this management of your internal energy extends to something called the affect heuristic. This essentially means that if you're in a fearful mindset, you're going to make fearful decisions. Have you ever hung out with a friend who is super depressed and suddenly you just absorb their mood? You totally forget your own great day and your energy shifts completely. Or maybe you consume a bunch of negative news and suddenly the whole world looks bleak. Well, the Stoics teach us to be compassionate, absolutely, to show sympathy, but to cautiously guard our own energy. We simply cannot let absorbing negative information fundamentally shift our mindset and ruin our ability to make sound choices.
That leads us right into section 4, guarding your thoughts and cultivating a healthy mind.
Marcus Aurelius had this incredibly profound habit of constantly interrogating his own thoughts, kind of like shining a lantern directly onto his own brain. He would literally ask himself, "My mind, what is it? What am I making of it? What am I actually using it for right now?" He wanted to ensure he was using his mental bandwidth for a truly productive purpose. Think about it. We waste so much time replaying past conversations in our heads like a broken record, trying to change what we said. It's totally useless. The ultimate tool to observe your thoughts is journaling. It's literally shining a lantern on your unhelpful habits. When you observe your mind on paper, you can easily spot when you're giving in to greed or fear or endless daydreaming. And once you see it, you can course correct.
To really guard your mind, you have to aggressively filter your inputs into primary and secondary activities. Primary activities, things like rest, meaningful work, family, these require our single-minded focus. Secondary activities are things like doom scrolling, gossiping, gambling, or, memorizing random ESPN stats about LeBron James. As the source material points out, who honestly cares what some analyst wrote about a basketball game the next morning? It's useless information that just eats up the precious bandwidth you desperately need for primary, meaningful progress.
All right, let's do a really quick diagnostic check on your own mental habits. Here are the classic symptoms of an unhealthy mind. You're worried about uncontrollable things. You're emotionally inconsistent, like you're happy one day, sad the next for absolutely no reason. You're unfocused. And you're insecure. The Stoics remind us that the inverse is a healthy mind. A healthy mind is peaceful, it's consistent, and kind of like a healthy stomach that can digest any food, a healthy mind is fully prepared for absolutely anything life throws at it. And finally, section 5, knowing your true self and making better decisions. One of the greatest tragedies is that most of us actually do know who we are, but we completely lack the confidence to live in agreement with it. We yield to social pressure and literally force ourselves into situations we are totally unsuited for. For example, why on earth buy a $20,000 SUV for a lifestyle you don't even live? Baruch talks about buying this massive vehicle, completely convincing himself he needed it to go on more adventurous trips or to move a bunch of stuff around. But the truth? He didn't actually like doing those things. He just liked the idea of those activities. So we just ended up spending way more on gas and insurance. We deceive ourselves constantly just to fit an image, rather than living in true alignment with our natural inclinations.
Which brings us right to Socrates. To know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. We have this terrible, deeply ingrained habit of tying our identity and our self-worth to our possessions, or to social signaling. We buy a bunch of things during massive holiday sales just to feel complete. But Seneca reminds us that nothing deserves true admiration except the mind. Your real self-worth comes from the things that physically cannot be taken away from you. And this perfectly captures how important it is to make deliberate life decisions based on your own internal values. Epictetus taught that you must decide first what type of person you want to be, and then just stick to it. Whether that means you're leaving a party early because people are emitting negative energy, or you're choosing a career path that your parents just don't understand, you absolutely cannot throw out your ideals at the first sign of peer pressure. You have to choose your own path. You remain the exact same honest person whether you are completely alone or standing in a crowded room. So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative challenge. You have the inner strength and the absolute personal power to craft your own life story. The responsibility is completely yours. So who do you truly want to be when no one else is looking?